episode 389. I am your host, Keith Andrew, along here with Tiara Simmons. I just want to say thank you for being a guest on my talk show.
Hi, thank you. Thank you for inviting me. I appreciate it.
No, the honor's all mine. And now, for people who want to know the point of my talk show, the whole point of my talk show is to show people that even with having a learning disability, I can still amount to something. And at the same time, I'm able to turn myself into an example for people out there dealing with any types of learning disabilities and disabilities. They should never give up, and they should prove to people you can still amount to something. You should prove to them that labels do not dictate who you are and who you're going to be, so you should prove to them, hashtag break the labels. So that being said, half hour, 45 minutes of your time. Say anything you want, talk about whatever you want. And for the most part, for my show, I interview actors, actresses, models, CEOs, professional wrestlers. And I show with a disability, I can still amount to something. And time to time, I get people with disabilities on the show. And you're a perfect candidate, to be honest. Yeah, so I can add you to the list. Is I saw you were friends with, trying to think of his name. I think Dominic.
Yes, Dominic Evans.
And he was also a guest on my show. And he recommended you. And also, basically, I saw that you were in a wheelchair. And I was like, you know what? People said I need to cater more to people with disabilities. Because I cater to people with disabilities. Might as well have more people with disabilities on the show, so it's a win-win. And I also saw that you were a student in war. That also caught my interest.
Yeah, so I have a disability. I am a double below-the-knee amputee since, I might as well say birth. I was 6 months old at the time. And right now, I'm in my mid-30s. I'm in law school. I am 3 semesters away from graduation, and then I just need to pass the bar, and I can be a practicing attorney. I love the idea of what you do. It's so important that people who are like us with, whether it's a learning disability, a physical disability, even behavioral disorder, that they see that it doesn't stop just because now you are now that you're an other, because our society is so built on being able-bodied that people who are new to being disabled, whether it's because of an accident or they have an illness now, they seem to feel like, well, now what? Well, you, Keith, me, people like Dominic or Alex or Alice or Valissa, we are the what now? We are the, well, now you just keep living. You find your road and you keep living. So that's what I had to do, and that's what I encourage others to do as well.
No, absolutely. Now, I'm going to ask you, when you were first diagnosed with your disability, did you go into a deep depression? And did you say, just kill me now and make it easier for me? Did you ever have that mindset?
I have. But it's interesting because, like I said, I've been disabled all my life. Like, I don't know anything other than being a double below-the-knee amputee. And for your listeners who may not know what that means, that basically means that they cut off my legs, both of them, below the knee, like midway the shin. And it's interesting because for most of my childhood, of my youth, early childhood rather, it didn't play a role. Like, I was oblivious to the fact that I was disabled. I was still able to do things the other kids were doing. I would climb up out, onto the fire escape, and I was playing jump rope. Even if I wasn't jumping, I was able to turn the rope or, just travel easily. But a lot of that had to do with because I was so young and I was so little. And then I'll say about 1994. I was about 10 years old going on 11. And that's when it started to slowly dawn on me just how different. Like I was at that point completely aware that I was different. Let's put that out there. But it was around that point that I realized how different. And slowly but surely, I think that's when the symptoms of depression, the signs of depression started to slip in. But I was also raised in a Christian home, a home of Christian black women. And one thing you learn in the church, and is also prevalent in black society, is you don't have, there's nothing wrong with you, just pray about it, you'll be fine. And you can't pray the sadness away. You can ignore it, but you can't pray it away. And I didn't address or have anyone to address with me what was going on emotionally. And by the time I hit middle school, high school, yeah, that's when those thoughts crept in big time. That's when, I hated the world. I didn't like too much my parents. I wasn't raised by them, so it was easier to not like them at that point. But I kind of hated my parents for, I blamed them for my disability. We still don't know what it was. It was a form of meningitis, and we still don't know how it happened. So there's really nowhere to truly point the finger. I blame the hospital. I blame society because, why me? But why me turned into woe is me, and that's so dangerous emotionally. And I'll say by the time I got to college in 2001 in New York, and first year they did a mental health screening, and the woman who did it recommended that I come in for appointments, and I did 3 appointments, and then I just stopped. I don't know why. So, and it's been up and down. It's been up and down since then. And it wasn't really until, I was about to graduate college that I took it seriously, because I also didn't want to be that disabled person that just is angry all the time and hates the world. And like you said in your introduction, using the disability as a crutch. I didn't want to be that person. So definitely had to get help. So, that's what I tell your listeners. If you are feeling that way, please, even if it's talking to a friend that you trust, you only need that one friend. You really only need that one friend. If it's not going to be someone who's a professional, if you're in school, go to the guidance counselor, mental health counselor. If you're in college, the psychologist. But don't let it get to the point where you think you want to die. Just, it's not good for you. It's not good for you. I'm not even worried about the people who are around you. I'm worried about you. Just take care of you.
No, absolutely. Now, the next question I was going to ask you is all the obstacles that you overcame and overcome in your life. Mm-hmm. Are you satisfied where you are right now?
I won't say that I'm satisfied, because when you get to a point of being satisfied is when you stop striving for more and stop striving for better. So I won't say that I'm satisfied. I'll say that I'm happy with my path. I'm happy that I found my road to travel on, if that makes sense. But I won't say that I'm satisfied. Truly, honestly, I'm not going to be satisfied until there's accessibility issues are no longer existing, until all these societal issues just are gone. But that's not going to happen anytime soon. So I'm happy that I finally found an area, law, activism, media, social media, that has made me a little bit more happy, because it's given me an outlet to be the activist that I always thought I was in my own head,
No. I don't mind me. When I don't do my interviews, I my disability shows more, and I try to hide that.
Don't, don't, don't hide. That's something that we've been indoctrinated since, I guess, since we became disabled or became aware of our disabilities, if it's something that's been lifelong. But don't hide, because that's what society is trying to do to us right now. Society, it's only been up until like the 60s or 70s that people with disabilities were put into institutions or hidden away, um, in their family's home. I always think back to Willowbrook in New York. I've actually worked with a lot of the people who were residents of that place. And why hide? Part of activism or spreading awareness is being visible. So I grew up in a home where, my family wanted to quote unquote hide my disability, hide the fact that I didn't have legs by getting me prostheses. And, for them, that's what we needed to do for me to function in society. And I've never liked them. So when I got to college, I stopped using them and eventually threw them in the trash, because why hide?
No, I agree with you.
So don't even worry about it, Keith.
I like holding myself up to a higher standard, and that's why, when I just put a face on. That was all self-esteem, too.
Yeah, I mean, self-esteem, it's a thing. It definitely is a thing. Everyone has self-esteem issues, It's part of growing up. It's part of the growing pains. You see the teen angst, watch TV, and you have the girl who can't stand her hair, or the guy who thinks he's not, handsome enough to get his partner, or whatever the case may be. And for us, dealing with a disability, especially if it's a visible disability, or if it's one that is invisible, but we can't really hide it, like it'll come out the minute we speak or whatever. Self-esteem is a rocky road. Really, I'll be honest, all truth on the table. To this day, I still struggle with it. I'm engaged. I found a guy who, saw beyond the four wheels that get me around, who saw beyond the amputations, because I'm also amputated on these 3 fingers on my right hand, and was like, I don't care, I love you. And for so long, I promise you, even I'm in my mid-30s now, or even late 20s at least, I was still like, I'm so ugly, I'm so fat, I'm so disabled, no one's going to want me, I don't have any friends, which really wasn't true, but I felt that way because self-esteem. Who wants to hang around a disabled person? Well, apparently they do. We are social just like everyone, the able-bodied peers are, if that makes sense.
No, I agree with you. Now we're going to take a quick commercial break, and when we come back, I'm going to ask you 2 hard-hitting questions, and I'm going to pass the show over to you.
All right, thank you.
A message for yourself or as a gift for someone else. For personal connections, shout-outs, birthdays, proposals, weddings, and much more. Enter your details about yourself so the celebrity can record a personal video message especially for you, including details such as your name, age, birthday, hobbies, or whatever else you include. As soon as the video has been recorded, you'll get an email with your link so you can share it on social media or download and keep it. Celebrities record videos as and when they can, usually within 2 weeks. But if you want a video for a specific date and it does not look like it will arrive in time, you can cancel it and get an instant refund at the click of a button. There are hundreds of celebrities to choose from and many more joining every day. Search by category or genre, buy a gift voucher, get updates and offers, and encourage your favorite celebrities to join so they can connect with fans in a fun and unique way. Raise money for their charities and much more. So order your video now for yourself or for someone else.
Network 389. I'm here with the talented Tiara Simmons, and I just want to say thank you for being a guest on my talk show.
And again, thank you for inviting me.
No, absolutely. Now, for people who want to know, if you're just joining us, who want to know what my talk show's about, because I keep changing my slogan. If you look at my picture, It's just never, KeithAndrewNetWork, never give up and prove people wrong. And I'm like, alright, that sounds good, but how can I have that in my saying? Because I say never give up and prove people wrong, but yet I now have another saying. It says labels do not dictate who you are and who you're going to be. I'm like, shit. Maybe I should have went with that logo instead of prove people wrong. I can use both of them. It doesn't really make a difference.
There's no rule against it. There's no rule against using both.
It's true. So my logo is KeithAndrewNetWork, never give up and prove people wrong. But my slogan for my show is the whole point of my talk show is to show people that even with having a learning disability, I can still amount to something. And at the same time, I'm able to turn myself into an example for people out there dealing with any types of learning disabilities and disabilities. But you should never give up. You should prove to people you can still amount to something. Show them that labels do not dictate who you are and who you're going to be. So hashtag break the labels. So that being said, I'm going to ask you 2 more hard-hitting questions and I'm going to pass it over to you. And the first one I was going to ask you is, I know you're going to be stuck in a wheelchair for the rest of your life. I know you don't want to hear that. But I'm not saying that to be an asshole. I'm not saying I have some good points I would like to add to that. It's saying, if I was stuck in a wheelchair for the rest of my life, I would make the coolest wheelchair ever. I would put turn signals on it. I would make it, street legal. Who needs a car? Just give me a motor and I can just drive myself and drive the wheelchair wherever I'm going. Or put a, you know how most motorcycles have a little sidecar?
Oh, yeah.
I would add that so I can just put my groceries in it. I would make it the coolest thing ever. Professor X on the X-Men, he was a cripple, but he had a badass wheelchair.
He did. he did. Actually, some of those cool wheelchairs exist. I saw a guy, I was coming back from, I don't even know where I was coming back from, and I saw this guy, a vet, in a wheelchair, a power wheelchair, and not a scooter, and it had lights on it, not just reflectors. It had actual lights so that you can, like headlights and rear tail lights, and turn signals. And he had a little mirror so that he can see behind him. I don't have all of that on my wheelchair. I can just turn around and look behind me if I want to. And then that's if I even care what's behind me. Sometimes I really just don't. But yeah, I had a manual wheelchair when I was younger. And back then, the big thing was to put click clackers on your wheelchair. The way that people put like a card from a deck of cards in their bike to make that sound. So if you had a wheelchair that had, I can't even think of what they're called anymore, but spokes, that had like the small metal spokes, you can buy, they were really for bikes, but you could buy this thing of beads and just clip them onto the spokes in your wheelchair. And every time you moved, it made the most annoying click-clack sound, but I loved it. I thought it was so cool. I used to watch a show called Glee, if you know that show, and one of the main characters, Artie, was in the wheelchair, and his front tires, the caster tires in the front, they lit up like the LA Lights sneakers, but his was like the LA Lights wheelchair.
Oh, nice.
But one thing I do want to say is that, no, I don't see it as being stuck in a wheelchair. Because, I'm sitting in my bed right now, I try to tell, at least to my able-bodied friends, the people who are living without any type of disability whatsoever, I definitely try to let them know, no one is wheelchair-bound, When you're bound for something, like you're tied to it, or you're going to it, I just use it. I use a wheelchair the way you wear sneakers, or the way the next person might use a cane, or a walker, but...
or the toilet.
Sure. It's really stuck in it, I know it's just like a figure of speech. It definitely is just a figure of speech. But I do want to put it out there that yeah, I'm not bound to it. I'm not glued. I'm not stuck to it. I get out of it as often as I can, because, like, your label doesn't define you. My wheelchair doesn't define me. It plays a huge role in what I can do. It does limit me, but it doesn't completely define me. It's just one aspect. So,
No,
yeah,
I
I'll
understand.
take Professor X's wheelchair any day, though.
You just throw him out of it. You're done with that. Just trying to make you laugh.
No, hey, I love the X-Men. I do. Such a comic book nerd. I have a corner over here with all these comic books in it, and every week I go down to Shoreline Comics in Long Beach and I pick up the new releases that he puts aside for me. Like, I love my comics.
Oh, nice.
Yeah.
Now, my last subject to you, then pass the show over, it's a two-parter. The first
Okay.
one is, and to try and find the words for it, have you ever thought about getting, I know you said you had prosthetic legs,
Mm-hmm.
would you ever get robotic legs? I know it's expensive.
Yeah, and I'm sure insurance will not cover it because insurance doesn't like to cover anything useful. Or they make it hard.
I agree.
Robotic legs. I'm not sure I would have a need for the robotic legs, just because unless it's just for the ankle part, because I do still have, like, my thigh, my knee, some of my shin. But I don't know. That's actually a question I've never thought about. I've been asked before if I would get prosthetics again, and I said probably not. No, actually, no, I won't. I won't, because that gives the world around me a way out.
Yeah.
That gives the world around me a way to say, well, look, we don't have to do anything on our part because now you're kind of just like us again. And no, like, I want to live in an accessible society, but that doesn't mean that I'm the one who has to do everything to become more included. Our society, our country, our neighbors, our city, local leaders, they have the burden to make things accessible no matter your disability, whether it's braille signage by the door, whether it's flashing lights in all the apartments for alarms, and whether that means making all apartments from here on out, building apartments in general, wide enough for a wheelchair to turn around in, or with as few steps as possible for people with other mobility issues, or, just whatever the case may be. So no, I don't think I would get the robotic legs now that I think about it. Yeah. I don't want to do their job for them.
That's true. Before I ask you the last part, in town where I live, it's funny, but it's not funny. It's kind of funny in a demented kind of way. I have a warped sense of humor. It's because...
Go ahead.
Yeah, I'm not perfect. They fixed the sidewalks, and I don't know what the hell they were thinking. Either the guy was drunk or he thought it was funny. So they extended the sidewalk to here to... It's supposed to be like this, but they did this. And now when you're driving, you have to avoid hitting the sidewalk, because if you don't pay attention, you're going to run over it. So
they sent it into the street.
Yeah, so it jets out from the sidewalk into the street, and I'm like, what were they drunk when they were doing this? It's like, I could have done a better job, and I have a learning disability.
I see that all the time where I am, where they expand sidewalks and, they remove parking, but it's because they want to put, it's not for the fact that they want to expand the sidewalks to make it more accessible for wheelchairs and walkers and scooters. That is not it. They're expanding them because they want to put more bike racks, or because now the bike sharing is a big trend now, so they want to do more bike racks for the bike sharing, or for just regular bikes. Or they want to give outdoor patios to some of the storefront restaurants that are there that don't have their own patios. It really isn't for accessibility. But, I mean, I have more sidewalk. I don't drive, so I just hope that other cars are paying attention to it because I do not want to be run over. Just don't.
Yeah, same here. Now, before I ask you the last part, just one more question I just want to throw in. You just mentioned you don't drive. Would you ever be interested in driving, say, I know you have to use your legs, the foot pedals, but if you were given a car where you can just use like a motorcycle, where you can use the handles, would you ever take that? And my last question on top of that is, who influenced you to become a lawyer?
Okay, so about the car. I would definitely take it with the the adaptations that they have it. It's out there. The problem is that insurance doesn't cover any of this. Yeah. Insurance doesn't cover anything when it comes to, I guess, the luxuries. Even though I don't see a car as a luxury, I see it as a necessity, especially with the amount of doctor's offices that you have to visit for different things. And insurance will cover your transportation, but it's limited. I just found that out. Like, they'll pick me up, but I have to have a doctor's order. And we all know how difficult those can get sometimes. But I would definitely take the car. And I get asked a lot, because I live in California. And it's very spread out in California. And nothing is ever it's not New York anymore. Like, it's definitely not New York, In New York, I had no problem just getting on the Metro North from Mount Vernon, which is where I'm from, hopping on the Metro North and then getting off at like 125th or Fordham Road or Grand Central and then just taking a bus because the next thing I needed was only like a 20-minute bus ride.
Right.
Out here, it's so spread out. It's like an hour and some change to get from Long Beach to LA. And then the buses are slow. But the buses are more accessible than they are in New York. I'll say that. But yeah, people ask me a lot, like, why don't I just get a car? Because when you're physically disabled, when you have a mobility impairment, just getting a car doesn't exist. I can't just go over to Worthington Ford or whoever the car dealer is and pick out a car and say, okay, I want this one. I have to sign up to be a part of, some of these outreach groups. There's one out here, kind of like a social services, physical therapy thing. I have to have physical therapy. That's not free. I have to get an evaluation done with the physical therapist. That's not free. Once they do that, I have to go get the parts that I need, like the hand controls.
Yeah.
That's not free. To get it put in is not free. The car, to get the lift and have it lowered, like none of it is free. Every aspect of every change that I'm going to need adapted on the car is not free. And then there's the driving lessons, which everyone has to do, which is not free. And insurance doesn't cover any of this, even though it's not necessarily a luxury. So that's why I don't drive right now.
And that's not free.
Yeah, and even not driving is not free. It's crazy. And then I was also asked, well, then I'm a huge proponent for self-driving cars, right? And I'm just like, I don't know about that either. There's so much with technology, but, that's a conversation for another day. But I'd rather drive myself, but I'd rather not have to jump through 3,000 different hoops just to even get the car. Not even so much to learning to drive, but getting the car itself. It's so expensive that it locks a lot of us out.
Yeah,
so,
right.
And then you asked me about who influenced me to become a lawyer. So that has multiple answers. Like, it's not one thing in particular that influenced me. Like, I influenced me. To sound a little narcissistic, I influenced me in a sense because I'm the one living with a disability. And, there's a lot that was going on when I was a kid that I didn't understand. I mentioned earlier that my parents didn't raise me. They were drug addicts. So we were removed from the home. And luckily, we're not placed in foster care. My mother's godmother was able to take us. And her sisters, they raised us, all of them. So those are the women that raised me. But there was a lot that I didn't understand. I didn't understand, foster care. I didn't understand dependency court, or, like the children's court and how that works, and who makes the rules, and who says that I have to do, or that I have to be taken away. And like, I didn't understand a lot of that. So my own upbringing influenced that. And then I'm leaning more towards criminal law. Public defender's office, hire me. I'm going to be looking for a job soon. But I started leaning towards criminal law because I saw that even within the disabled community, we don't have people to talk for us in criminal law, like in the criminal justice system. We have the public defenders. They speak for the indigent and the ones who cannot afford private attorneys, your rights, basically. But I saw a lot of news stories where people with disabilities, mostly with learning or mental disabilities, whether it was an intellectual disability, autism, whatever it is, were being attacked in schools, by cops, and they don't have those advocates for them once they've entered the criminal justice system for whatever reason. And I was a victim/witness to a crime, actually, in 2011 in California. And I was watching, he was a young man from my area, and he burglarized my home, basically, like, long story short. And I saw his public defender, and she was doing the best with what she had, but it was like, oh, wow, you asked me the weirdest questions. And she asked me, why did I not know where a lot of the stairwells are in my building? And I'm like, because I use a wheelchair. I have no reason to know where the stairs are because I use a wheelchair. I can only use the elevator. But just watching her kind of influenced me to really go and look into law, because I'd always had the interest. I just didn't have the patience. But I felt like, even though I was the victim in that case, the victim/witness in that particular case, I still do feel that people deserve the best, representation that they can get. And I also feel that if you want that representation, you have to see you in that field, and I don't see a lot of disabled lawyers at all. I saw one judge with a wheelchair a couple of years ago from Oakland. I just don't see a lot of people with disabilities in the law, and that was another influence of mine.
No, absolutely. Now, passing the show over to you, was there anything you wanted to promote, anything you want to ask me? Wrapping up.
Well, I want to get it out there to your listeners to be an advocate in the way that you can, the best way that you can. Whether you're an able-bodied ally and can get to these marches and can get to Capitol Hill, but speak up for us, because we can't do it alone. We've been trying, and now the House of Representatives, that is, in Congress, they're trying to pass H.R. 620. And if your listeners don't know what H.R. 620 is, it basically is rolling back the protections, the meager protections, that the Americans with Disability Act has given people with disabilities. The ADA requires that businesses are accessible, public spaces are accessible, and there are a ton of loopholes, that you can use to get out of being accessible, but now they're making it more difficult for us. 620 has, I want to say, 52 co-sponsors and sponsors, 12 of whom are from California. And they want to make it so that businesses, although their ADA has been in law for 27 years, we have to give them another 6 months, 120 days, whatever, notice before we can take any action against them. And we have the burden to know this law inside and out if this passes. And we have the burden of proving that they weren't accessible and that they didn't try to become accessible for us, and give them time to explain themselves. And 27 years this has been on the books, so they don't need any more time. And all this is doing is, I feel like, is pushing us back into the shadows that we've been trying so hard to live in, like, an inclusive society. So I encourage you all to, look it up, HR 620, and write to your congressmen and your representatives and your senators and your local leaders, including your mayor, and tell them to say no. Tell them to say no to this. Don't make this already inaccessible world more inaccessible for 20% of the American population. A population that you can become a part of literally in 5 minutes if something happens out on the street or whatever. So that's what I want to promote right now. And just keep activating. I can't even speak right. Keep advocating where you can, in the way that you can. Find what works for you and do it. But we need you.
No, absolutely. I do have a couple questions off the air. But wrapping up the interview segment, it was a real honor and privilege to have you as a guest. And I'm looking forward to part 2 down the road.
Of course. Thank you so much, Keith.